guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm talking something a little bit different, and that is Pinterest. So last week Pinterest invited me to a workshop they held in Zurich, and I learned some really good new tips. And I also have been using Pinterest since I started my blog and Instagram to help generate traffic, and actually about 80% of my blog traffic comes from Pinterest. So I can't stress enough how important it is to be using Pinterest when it comes to growing your blog traffic. And there are also some ways you can use it to filter people through to your Instagram account and help grow your Instagram following. So today I'm going to quickly cover the basics about Pinterest and the best ways that you can get more reach with your Pinterest. And then I'm also going to go through a few of the tips that I learned at the workshop last week. So one of the things that Pinterest talked about last week was the fact that they've changed the way they show your followers on Pinterest, I guess, because it's actually different to something like Instagram, where followers is quite an important number. On Pinterest, followers isn't really that important. What is important is your reach and how far or how much exposure your pins are getting. So they've actually changed on your account or profile to show, rather than how many followers you have, how big your reach is. So for example, I have around 2,500 followers. However, my monthly reach is actually 1.2 million. So you can see how different those numbers are, and how their followers doesn't really necessarily equate the reach. And the reach is what is important, is because by getting to those people, you're drawing them back through your different channels, wherever that pin might lead to. So how do you get more reach? The first way is by pinning regularly, and I would recommend daily. Something that sometimes I only have a couple of minutes for each day, but it's better than nothing. And I find that by doing that, it's just keeping your profile active, and Pinterest likes that. And what can happen is, if you're active all the time and you look like a good contributor to the Pinterest community, your profile may get featured on people's, I guess, home feed. You may have seen it, where a little box with the profile and a follow button comes up underneath. So that is where you can potentially get more followers and more reach. And then with the content you are pinning or repinning, 80% of it should ideally be from your own channels, so your blog or your Instagram or wherever else you're pinning from, because the more content you put out there, the more leads you have back to your own content. For me, I wouldn't say 80% of what I'm pinning is my own content. I would probably say at the moment it's 50-50. Where I'm pinning other people's content and also my own. So it really depends how much content you have there to pin, and I guess the message is, the more of your own content, the better. Encouraging people to repin your content as well as yourself doing it is really important, and a really great way to do this is to have the share buttons or also on image pin it buttons on your website. And the plugin I use for this is called Sumo, and it's really easy to install and have it pop up on your pages, and it's just this constant prompt for people to remind them that they can pin your content. And the more people you get pinning your content, the more reach you get. Setting your Pinterest account up as a business account is really important for reach, because it gives you access to rich pins. So rich pins, once you've set your account up as a business and you've linked your website to your Pinterest, and you can now also verify your Instagram, Etsy and YouTube accounts as well. So when you do repin, or someone else repins content from your channels, it actually shows up with far richer keywords and search terms behind it. It shows the title of your blog post, it shows the metadata, and it just becomes a much more engaging experience for someone who might come across your pin, and it makes it more searchable as well. Using a scheduling program to help you with your regular consistent pinning is a really good idea. The one that I'm using currently is called Tailwind, and basically it optimizes your best post times and you just queue up all the pins. So for example, every day I go in and I schedule a bunch of pins, and then Tailwind will actually post those at times when more people are online, so that helps get more reach for each of those pins and make sure that they're optimized to the best. And it's also really good because you might spend 10 minutes pinning, but then Tailwind will spread out those pins for the next 24 hours or for whatever you set it to be, and so then it's far more consistent than just pinning chunks every day. And you can actually also use Tailwind now to schedule repinning, where you may have a particular piece of content that's something that maybe it's seasonal or maybe it does really well, and you want to make sure that it's constantly being repinned and looped so that it's always getting more exposure and getting pushed to the top of that Pinterest feed. So I use that for my capsule wardrobe posts. So I make sure that every so often they're getting repinned, and when I set that up in Tailwind, I don't have to worry about it anymore. I know that it's just going to happen in the background for me. Once you've got all of that sorted, it's really important to also make sure that your content is pinnable and is attractive to people on Pinterest. And the best way to do this is to make sure your images are a ratio of 2:3 and vertical. So that way you can imagine they fit nicely onto a phone screen, and also by using vertical images, you're taking up more of the Pinterest real estate, so your pin might be more noticeable. And as well as that, it's been proven that pins with text overlays do a lot better than just plain images. So if you were to have a look at one of my blog posts and scroll to the bottom, you'll always find a pinnable image that people can repin and that I repin myself, and that's been optimized for getting noticed on Pinterest. And like most search engine optimization type things, it's really important to include keywords, and Pinterest is now also compatible with hashtags. So when you do pin things, make sure you're writing in a little description that's got some nice keywords and some hashtags that might help when people are searching for the kind of content that you're putting out there. And if you have a look on your blog, if you click on an image and you change the alt text that's there, the import field that's there, that is actually what will automatically populate into a pin. So make sure that that alt text that you're putting into your images is something you would want the description to be in Pinterest as well. And this is probably my Pinterest secret weapon, and that is posting to group boards. Now, group boards do take a little bit of work to begin with, but once you have them set up, they're a really, really powerful way for increasing your reach incredibly. So basically, there are accounts out there who have created group community boards, and they are able to invite anyone they like to be a part of that board. And some of these boards have thousands and thousands of followers, which means they have a lot more reach than you might have. And so basically there's a website called Groupie, and I will link to that in the description. And you go on there and you search for boards that might be appropriate for the kind of content that you're putting out there. So whether that's fashion or travel or whatever it might be, find some appropriate boards, message them to ask if you can be part of the group board contribution, and then you build yourself up a nice database of all these boards that you then have access to put your own pins on and get extra reach out of those. In a nutshell, they would be my top tips for increasing your reach on Pinterest and really making the most of the incredible search engine that it is. And now I'm going to just go through a couple of the things I learned last week at the Pinterest event. And the first one is a really easy way to automatically repin your Instagram posts onto Pinterest boards. And there is an app called IFTTT, which stands for If This Then That. And it's basically an app that communicates with all sorts of devices and apps, and Instagram and Pinterest are two of those things. So the app will actually link them up. You can create an action, so you will tell the app, if I post on Instagram and use this hashtag, post my Instagram image to this Pinterest board, and that will all happen automatically behind the scenes. You don't have to worry about doing it, and that way you can also make sure that your Instagram posts are getting the most out of all that beautiful reach you've worked on creating with your Pinterest, and that will feed people back through to your Instagram account and hopefully help you grow your followers on Instagram as well. Another little tip I learned that I had no idea about is the source page you can view, which shows you everything anyone has ever repinned from any of your channels. And I will also put this in the description, but basically you type in pinterest.com/source/ whatever your username is .com, and that will come up with a feed of those repinned images for you. Building followers on Pinterest is actually quite a difficult task. It's not like other social media. And rather than Pinterest itself being the best place to try and grow your following, it's actually far more effective if you use your other channels and feed your followers through those channels into your Pinterest and then turn them into Pinterest followers. So two really great ways to do this would be with your Instagram stories. So you can insert a swipe up link to different Pinterest boards if there's something you're talking about that's relevant that you've also got on Pinterest, or you can just share that now and again, and that will get more people through from your Instagram. And then if you have a blog, a website blog, a really great thing to do is to put in your sidebar a little link to your Pinterest, sort of feeding people back through. And that is two ways to use other channels to feed people through to your Pinterest account. And they are all of my top Pinterest tips. I hope that was really helpful for you. As always, if you have any questions or comments about Pinterest, please let me know below and I will answer and keep chatting with you guys about it. And if you do have any specific questions or specific things you really need help on with your social media, I do offer one-on-one Instagram and blogging coaching, which I will put a link to in the description of this video. And yes, give me a like. I'm looking forward to creating more content for you next week. And until then, bye.